Back from the break, Dr. Tom Butler, Todd Scarborough here, and talking about, folks, the very thing that confuses so many people out there today, and how many supplements that you have on the shelf in the cupboard that you haven't taken in 2 years, and they probably expire, and you read an article and you thought it was the best thing on the planet and you had to have it, and your grandmother said you needed it, and the next thing you know, it kind of fades away. So what we try to do here, and you can go broke buying supplements, especially if you read all the magazines. You read and you think, boy, that's going to help me. But in reality, it goes back to that condition specific, like you were talking about, Tom.
Right.
Most everybody, we think multiple vitamins. The difference between the multiples at the fast or the chain outlets and that sort of thing, the one-a-day multiples, they have everything from A to zinc, but they have a smattering of everything. And they're really what you need to do as far as the multiple side, and I know you agree with this as well, is optimal levels, higher levels, as opposed to just things that prevent scurvy and beriberi. I mean,
Correct.
Vitamin C, they put enough in there to prevent certain things, but they don't really look at optimal levels, in which the ones at the health food store or at your outlet, it's a much higher potency, and that's what we're talking about when we're talking multiples, is the potency levels of these things, not necessarily the width of them, but the depth of them.
Well, you know as well as I do that some of these companies are guaranteeing what's in the bottle,
Yes.
but they're not guaranteeing what's in each dose.
It's a good point, too.
Correct?
Yes.
Because I hate going here because I do like the more conservative treatments and the aids, which is the nutrition as opposed to medicine, if you can get
You
by
can,
with it.
sure.
But from my understanding, the regulation, those potencies per pill can deviate from 10 to 190%. So, gosh, no wonder some people take it for a few days and they don't notice anything and they quit.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, because and then of course a multiple is something you have to stay on for a fairly extended period of time, a month or two, before you actually start to feel it. It's not something you're going to feel almost instantly. But when we talk of vitamins, of course, we're talking minerals, magnesium. You talked about magnesium. But the one thing that we see that's coming on the market, and when I had my health food store, I think we had one SKU, one placement of vitamin D on the shelf. And now you go in and you see sections of vitamin D. All of a sudden, the medical world woke up one day and realized how important vitamin D3 was. Cholecalciferol, ergocalciferol is vitamin D2, which is generally what you find in the medical community. Radically different. Vitamin D3 is produced by animals, predominantly. D2 is produced by plants, mushrooms, and all of these other sources. So the human form, or the closer to human form, is a vitamin D3. Tom, talk about vitamin D3. I mean, what it does in the body is, I don't even think we know half of what vitamin D3 does.
It's getting exposed more and more. The original study I looked at a few years ago is they actually gave it to a group of prisoners, and the group that they gave the D3 had no illness that winter. The other group had tremendous amounts of flus and colds and all the other smatterings. So you're gonna hear more and more about this.
Yeah.
So go back to the Stone Age when I first came out of school. 400 units was maximum.
Yes. And
now,
almost dangerous if you took more.
Yes, they were
really
really upset with us when we'd have two different nutrients, and this would have 400, this would have 400. The doctors were really terrible. And now there's physicians in our town that do 50,000 per week.
Yes. And the main reason why is because vitamin D3 is very hard to assimilate, okay? And then you're not going to get a lot of it. In fact, there's people that I know that are taking 5,000 and 6,000 IUs a day and still have low vitamin D levels. And, we get vitamin D3, folks, from the sun, predominantly is where we get most of it, exposure to the sun. And if we were all, naked in the garden, I guess it would be fine, wouldn't it, Tom? Because we'd have enough skin exposed to, but whenever you're in the garden, you're fully clothed and you'd have just a little bit. And then in turn, as we age, we don't necessarily convert that sunshine into vitamin D3 as well, and we don't convert a lot of the things that we take as well. So it's important not only to take vitamin D3 on a regular basis, but take quantities of it, fairly large quantities. But if you look at it, they almost deem it a hormone, don't they? I mean, it's a hormone type of product in a way, what it does.
Well, one of the things I like to do is, everybody demonizes cholesterol, but here we go. When the sun hits this tissue, it'll convert cholesterol into the D3.
Yes.
So we have our own ability to manufacture our own.
Yes.
So that's one thing I always remind people. If you don't like taking pills, go out in your shorts and a tank top and sit in the sun. Yes. And they'll say, well, I'll burn. I'll say, no, stay out there 10 minutes in the hottest sun. That's all you need.
Right.
So you'll absorb somewhere 5,000 or more per setting. But personally, in my, I work with a lot of back pain and neck pain. You're going to get more and more of these studies because they're finding the D does more and more things. But they took some Oriental ladies, they were 100-pound or less. They gave them 5,000 units per day for a protracted period of time. At 78 days, 59% of them had no more, and these are chronic neck and back pain.
Wow.
Yeah, no more pain, no more pills, no more nothing.
Interesting. So not only pain, immune system, hormonal aspects,
no toxicity,
in conversion of fats and all these other things, no toxicity. Exactly. So a very, very impressive product that's coming out. The one thing too, before we go to the break, Tom, which I really feel like is missing when we talk about the missing substances, and we'll talk about omega-3, which is another big missing substance.
Right.
But the one thing on the mineral side of things is magnesium, and I know you're a big fan of magnesium as well. Magnesium's responsible, and in short, and I'll give you my country boy analogy here, as I always do, is that the cell itself, the cell flexes with calcium ions. That's what flexes the cell. Magnesium relaxes the cell. If the cell is calcium dominant, then that cell is going to be constantly constricted, and if you don't have the magnesium in your body, you don't have it in the cell specifically, that cell is going to stay tight because it's calcium dominant. I've had people literally that I give magnesium to that are magnesium deficient, and I know you've seen this as well, to where they literally will take this product and within hours go straight to bed, relax, the stress is gone, sleep like a baby. Why? Because that cell is finally able to fully relax. So magnesium, where is it found? Green leafy vegetables, that's where we get it. If the soil doesn't have it in there, folks, the leaves are not going to have it. So it's got to be grown in magnesium-rich soils. You have to eat the right things. We don't eat green foods. So, Tom, as far as magnesium is concerned, I know it's at the top of your list. Am I missing anything as far as what? I mean, there's 300 enzymatic processes I know that magnesium is responsible for. How do you feel about it?
Specifically, I deal with painful people on a daily basis. And just for an example, someone has a muscle spasm, and no matter what you do therapeutically, physical medicine, massage, manipulation, acupuncture even, if that mineral is deficient, you're just fighting an uphill battle.
Barking up the wrong tree.
and I've had patients that's had chronic migraine. Simple little recommendation. Let's try some magnesium, some feverfew, the reduction. So they may not totally be gone, but the pain level, the recurrence, so instead of once a week, they'll have one a month. Instead of a severe one, they have to go to the hospital and get their shot to relieve it. It's controlled by simple treatments.
And we look at vitamin D. In fact, we were talking earlier about vitamin D helping to relieve pain there in that one study. Magnesium, obviously, very good at that as well. Pain is one of the main things that we deal with as we age. It's the chronic pain that limits us. Pain even limits us on the ability to exercise, and then that kind of starts the spiral down because you don't exercise, you're going to have more problems and more pain. So it's very important to keep the body moving, but if you're hurting, can't very well do that. The body cannot correct itself, however, Tom. It's just like if you put $5 worth of gas and you think you're going to drive to Chicago from here, you're not going to do it. So a lot of the times people will take, and I notice this as well, is they'll take a small amount of a supplement, say 400 milligrams of magnesium or 400 IUs of vitamin D, and then they wonder why it doesn't work. Well, you're fighting a house fire with a garden hose. You've got to have a lot more of that product, especially off the front end. And so with the magnesium and vitamin D, it's very important to have, especially if you're deficient, to have larger quantities. And I'm assuming you probably start people off the front end with a little larger dose, right?
Well, yeah, but let's just go back to the simplest of things you can do for your friend or your patient or whatever. 70% of us aren't getting 5 helpings of fruits and vegetables.
Nowhere close.
So probably one of the supplements we ought to talk about at some point is like a juicer, or maybe just get these. I know it's not the best, Todd, but the powdered things you mix with water that have.
At least it's something.
Yes,
At
it
least
has
it's something.
maybe 8, 10, 12 different types of varieties.
Yes.
Because at least you're covering the basics. And goodness, we're talking about fine tuning somebody. But the average American eats 1.5 meals out, and he only eats 2 meals a day. So.
Yeah,
Who's watching out after that?
You're right. And then the juicer, and I tell you, folks, if you and don't argue with Jack LaLanne, the man I think died at 97, didn't he? And so the one thing about this, as far as juicing, if you want to change your life, if you really want to change your health, there's one thing you can do. Buy you a good juicer. I always tell people, if you can pick it up with one hand, don't buy it, because the motor's too light in there.
That's right.
It should be like a third horse. Get you a real good juicer. Juice beets and celery and carrots and all of these greens and other things that you can. And I'm telling you, you will notice a huge difference in how you feel, your energy level, and those type of things. So, and then you're getting a lot of those minerals and vitamins through the juice itself. So we're going to take a break, folks, and we're coming right back to wrap this up. We want to talk to you about omega-3 fatty acids, another very important supplement out there. When we return, you're watching Understanding Your Health. Tom Butler, Todd Scarborough. We'll return. Hang on.